Hi friends, today I'll be talking about obstructive sleep apnea in children. So, obstructive sleep apnea in children is a very common entity that we see day in and day out, and a lot of parents as well as children come to us with a lot of manifestations which are usually missed on in day-to-day practice. So, I would be presenting a case scenario which is the most commonest thing that as a parent as well as a pediatrician we would see in our day-to-day practice. So we have a 3-year 11-month-old toddler with complaints of chronic mouth breathing, persistent snoring with gasping, frequent arousals during sleep for more than 3 days a week since 6 months. And this child also has recurrent colds, has become hyperactive recently with difficult learning skills. And with this we can say that yes, there is something that is going on with this child which is not normal. No child will have snoring, no child will have open mouth breathing, and any child which is becoming hyperactive in the last 6 months is become attention deficit, continues to have significant amount of learning problems, is definitely not normal. When I examined this particular child, this child had significant inferior turbinate hypertrophy, that is the bones inside your nostrils are significantly swollen, had adenoid faces, the maxillary bone, that is the midface had significant flattening, and child also had tonsils which were 2+. And when I examined the child, otherwise the rest of the clinical examination was normal. The X-ray of adenoids, we would see a significant hypertrophy of the adenoids. It's grade 4 adenoids, and this child was subjected to a sleep study, and a sleep study that was done showed that this particular child had a OAHI, that is obstructive apnea hypopnea index of 15 per hour with significant amount of desaturation as well as significant hypoventilation. So this was the first clinical case scenario. The second case scenario that I'm going to present to you is the most commonest thing that we would see in a day-to-day practice: a 4-year-old syndromic toddler with chromosomal translocation. So the most commonest chromosomal translocation that we would see is a child with Down syndrome presented to me with chronic mouth breathing, persistent snoring with gasping, frequent arousals during sleep since birth. So again, a similar case scenario, again with significant amount of mouth breathing, gasping, choking. On examination, syndromic with kissing tonsils and significant inferior turbinate hypertrophy. And because this is a child who has Down syndrome, had relative macroglossia, high arch palate, relative hypotonia, and when I looked at the other systems, I had already heard a loud P2, suggesting that this particular child had significant pulmonary hypertension. These two are the commonest scenarios that we see in day-to-day practice. So what are these? So how do we diagnose them? Should we do anything for them? So obstructive sleep apnea is a disorder of breathing during sleep characterized by prolonged partial airway obstruction or intermittent complete obstruction, that is obstructive apnea, that disturbs normal ventilation during sleep and normal sleep patterns. So it is not that it is just one entity, it is a continuum of entity, and what we are looking at is OSAS, and this has 3 components. One is episodic hypoxia, intermittent hypercapnia, and sleep fragmentation. Why should I be really worried about obstructive sleep apnea? Is it important to diagnose obstructive sleep apnea? Definitely. Why? Because this causes significant amount of morbidity and to a certain extent mortality in adults. So what are the morbidities that we are looking in pediatric age group? Children do not have good night's sleep. Children lack good quality sleep, and children do not go into their stage 3 sleep, which is a restrictive sleep. So children have open mouth breathing, children have frequent snoring, frequent toss and turn, children have gasping and choking. Probably you would have seen your child having a snore, suddenly wake up with a gasp. So it goes like this. You could see that there was a gap between the child snoring and child waking up with a gasping. And apart from that, some children have teeth grinding, which is very common, that no parent or some parent definitely would have noticed. Apart from that, bedwetting, and child wakes up with very unrefreshed sleep, lower lid becomes slightly swollen, child is very hyperactive, attention deficit, cranky in the morning, doesn't have a good schooling performance, that is poor scholastic performance. So these are some of the things that we look at. Apart from that, some other neurocognitive morbidities that we come across in pediatric age group is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, depression, aggressive behavior, learning and behavioral issues, growth impairment. That is something that we have seen in children significantly. Apart from that, we have seen children having significant insulin resistance, children start developing diabetes early, and we have something called as metabolic syndrome. Apart from that, children can also have significant amount of cardiovascular morbidity. So how do we diagnose these children? History and physical examination. Like I said, proper history, a proper nighttime history, a proper daytime history, a proper morning history will definitely let you know this particular child has obstructive sleep apnea or not. And depending on the history, we subject these children to a polysomnography, that is nocturnal sleep study. And nocturnal sleep study will help us in deducing is this mild, moderate or severe, and depending on mild, moderate or severe, we subject them to tailor-made therapies. And coming to what is a confirmatory diagnosis, polysomnography. A nocturnal polysomnography or a nighttime sleep study is a definitive for diagnosis of children with obstructive sleep apnea. By this, we can not only diagnose mild ones to moderate ones to severe ones, we can also have a tailor-made treatment for them. So what is the usual usual thing is, if you have huge adenoids, please send them for surgery. But what we have seen is children with huge adenoids not only have less amount of symptoms, but also on sleep studies do not have significant amount of obstructions as well as significant amount of desaturations, which can be taken care only by medications. So at last, high index of suspicion in a pediatric population. Second, a 5-minute history about sleep. And thirdly, appropriate diagnosis and prompt referral for sleep studies will go a long way, not only taking care of this child, but also inducing or prompting a good therapy so that these children grow up to have no significant morbidity in their future life. Thank you.